Hey guys, so this is Little Susie Sleever's channel. This is my update number 2 video. So update number 1 just posted, and oh my god, it's painful to post. It's taking a long time. So I apologize. I'm still doing this from my phone until I get this whole login situation fixed. Anyway, moving right on along. So the last video I discussed the nutrition classes. I didn't go into much detail about them, so if anyone is interested in more details about the nutrition classes, let me know. All of these things vary from installation to installation, so everything that I'm discussing now is really specific to Fort Gordon, Georgia, but some of the things may be similar to what you find at other military installations, and I'll go into that in another video. So now let's talk psych evals. So I went to the first psych eval, which was a psych eval through a civilian provider here at Fort Benning. I had spoke to the psych department at Fort Gordon and at their Super Tuesday meeting, and I had discussed the possibility of having it done by a civilian provider, and they told me that was fine. When I got back to Fort Benning, I contacted the psych department, had my referral put in by my PCM. That was the first thing. I had to have a referral put in for nutrition classes and for the psych eval by my primary care provider. Once that was put in, I contacted the psych eval, or the psych department. They were booked up. This was in February, early February. They were booked up through, or into, like, late March or something, for the appointment, mid-March for the first appointment. So during that wait, I contacted the psych department at Fort Gordon, and I started asking them what requirements they had of a civilian provider. Did they want them to be a Georgia licensed provider? Did it need to be, I live on the Georgia-Alabama line, so I wasn't sure if an Alabama provider would work. Couldn't get any information on that. Did they need to use a certain testing tool, a certain exam, or any other, were there any criteria that they needed to meet in order for this psych eval to be good enough or meet their standards? Excuse me, I just burped. I'm so sorry. 2 weeks I tried to get this information from Fort Gordon, and I could not get this information. No clear information at all. So I called them finally, and I said, hey, well, I'm just going to go ahead and try to do this through a civilian provider. Is that okay? And they were like, well, I can't get... The sergeant who was handling it said she couldn't get clarification from the doctor who was in charge of it. So I went ahead and did it. I went to a civilian provider and had the test done. I submitted the results, and during that time, my appointment came up for my other psych eval. Now, at this time, I had not heard back from Fort Gordon as to whether or not the first psych eval would work. So I went ahead and I went to the first appointment with the second psych eval, with the second provider here on post. And it was just an intake interview. It was not a psych eval. So I went to the intake interview. It took about an hour. They took down my demographics. I met with the provider very briefly. He took down some information, and then I met with an intake clerk. She took down the bulk of my information, demographics, that sort of stuff, weight, what I had tried, what I had, failed at, and so on and so forth. So I then still had not heard back from Fort Gordon. Was scheduled to do the actual psych eval portion with the provider here at Fort Benning. Went to that appointment. I called them up until I was going into the hospital to meet with this provider to see if I could, avoid wasting my time and the provider's time if I didn't need it. Need to repeat the psych eval. Couldn't get an answer. So I went to the psych eval here. Took the test, did fine. One of the areas that my questions were a little off on was whether or not I would be willing to seek medical attention. Or, it was questions like, you're seeing your doctor and you have some lab work that's a little off. Do you ask for them to explain in detail what the lab values mean? And I answered no on questions like that. Why did I answer? I'm a nurse. I understand how to read lab values and what those are usually indicative of. So I answered honestly. The provider was fine with that. He noted that. I passed the psych eval. I didn't have to go back for a third one because normally they have a third appointment here where they do a closeout interview, but he said it was fine. He didn't need it. Then I hear back from the provider at Fort Gordon, like 2 days later, and she proceeds to tell me that the psych eval that I had done by the civilian provider wasn't good enough. It didn't ask enough questions. And she did not know the provider here at Fort Benning personally. She had never worked with him, and therefore she could not give me a pass on the psych eval portion of the exam. She was going to have to require me to lose 10 pounds to show her that I was, quote, serious about this. Now, I'll be honest, that kind of pissed me off. I'm driving 8 hours, round trip to come to these appointments. Pretty damn serious, but whatever. So at this point I was pretty pissed off, but lo and behold, we came down on orders right around the same time. There was no way that I was going to be able to do this, lose this weight, get all this stuff done, get the EGD done, get all these other things done, and still have surgery and be recovered in time to drive cross country. So I'm going to stop this video here, upload it, and then I'll come back with a third one. Okay, so bear with me, and I apologize again.